Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Captain Smasher in a 10-minute game on chess.com. I just had one game that was aborted real quick. Only got to move 6 or 7, and then my opponent gave up. So, playing Captain Smasher, though. Let's play a Vienna. This was actually the course of the game that I just played. I played into the so-called Frankenstein Dracula variation. So, this is actually an opening I recommended to a student recently. C6, okay. I'll play bishop c4. Stop black from playing d5. Could also consider knight f3 for sure, but bishop c4 looks plenty normal here. And now knight f6. So if I play knight f3 at this juncture, d5, possible pawn trade, I can play bishop b5 check and then win the pawn on e5, although that's not strictly forced. It's an interesting line though for sure. I can also play something like d4. d4 strikes me as being an interesting move. Yeah, maybe d4. I'm going to go for that. Take with the queen. And I feel like my queen should be relatively safe on d4 because black has put their pawn on c6, blocking their knight from reaching that square. So let's see how black reacts to this. If knight takes e4, looking for the center fork trick, knight takes e4, d5. I feel like d takes e5 should give me a slightly better position. Okay, bishop b4. There, I was thinking about, just in passing, take, knight takes, and then either bishop takes f7 or queen f3. Both of which look pretty darn strong. I'm going to take and let black figure it out after this. There may be other moves at black's disposal, but trying to play quick, good moves, put the pressure on my opponent. Okay, knight takes e4. Yeah, so now I'm going to pause for a moment and think, because both of these are prime candidate moves for me. Bishop takes f7, king takes f7, queen f3. Maybe black can just play knight f6. Their king will be a bit exposed. Queen f3, on the other hand, looks pretty forceful and strong. However, d5 may deal with the dual threats on f7 and e4. I could take en passant, but then knight takes d6. And I think black is going to defend there. So I'm kind of leaning towards bishop takes f7 first. Queen d4 is another move if I want to defend c3 and also attack their knight. So I think the key line, bishop f7, king f7, queen f3, knight back to f6. Yeah, I like that because I don't even need to take the knight right away. I could play something like knight e2. So I think I'm going to go for this. Black probably has to take the bishop. I feel like if they move their king, I can play something like queen f3. You know, it's like king f8. Okay, well, we're going to test this theory. Yeah, I was thinking queen f3 here because if this knight moves, bishop g5 is a killer. That's a game-winning skewer. So queen f3. There are multiple pieces hanging now, though, so I think both sides have to be a bit careful. And black has the double threat on c3. What about queen g4? Yet another move here. Queen g4 hitting g7 and the knight. Could maybe even just move this bishop away and say, hey, I know I have bishop g5 in reserve coming up, so you are in trouble if you take twice on c3. Tricky little moment, in fact. Queen f3, I wonder about queen a5. Looking to counterattack c3. Queen g4 feels pretty decent. Yeah, queen g4 might be good for multiple reasons. I mean, the only thing is it gives black a chance to play king takes f7. I guess I can play queen takes e4 and just claim to be up a pawn there. Bishop g5, knight takes g5 is not leading to anything. It's a lot of time to spend on this move, but I feel like this is an important moment where I may just have a winning position if I play this properly. I think I'm going to go with queen g4. Okay, so yeah, hitting the knight, hitting g7, also trying to prop up bishop g5. I think king takes f7 is probably black's best option here. If d5 right now, I think queen takes g7, and I'm threatening all sorts of discoveries. That should be excellent for me. Okay, so black takes on c3. Let's recapture. The game's definitely not going to be over if black plays king takes f7 and I go queen takes e4, but up a pawn with black's king already having moved, I'm really liking my chances here. Black's development looks a bit confounded. I think black should actually play d5 in this position because if I take, there's rook e8. So yeah, black does go ahead and play that. I could give a check and then just develop my knight. that seems fine. Yeah, keep it simple now. Knight f3, look to castle. I had to compromise my structure over here, but on the whole, I'm very happy about this position. I have a 4 versus 2 from the E file through the H file. King g8, black's development's going to be awkward for the next few moves, especially getting this rook into play. Maybe black will try to play h6 and bring the king to h7 eventually. I don't think I can really hope to hurt black in the short term, so I think I should just complete my development, as I was saying. Yeah, knight f3 just looks fine here. I think long term I'd love to get my f-pawn involved, but let's castle first, bring the knight to, say, d4, move the queen, f4, f5. I'm not going to be too ambitious right away in this position unless black gives me some opportunity, especially since I spent a fair amount of time deciding on queen g4. Okay, knight a6. So I wonder if black's trying to go knight c5 and blockade on e6. That would be my guess. Looks like an awkward square to put the knight. Otherwise, I'm tempted to play bishop e3, kind of deny them squares. But now I'm just going to castle. I'm not going to overthink this. Knight here, and, you know, they might try to land the knight here, but I think whatever black decides, I should have good play against it. Okay, so, yeah, bishop e3. Bishop e3 seems most normal here. I'm going to do that. Put the queen on g3. And as I said, look to move this knight and play f4, f5. I think that's the dominant plan in this position. That's where my pawn majority is. Just looks very good to get this going. Now, I wonder if I should play knight d4. It does allow black to trade and go into an opposite color bishop position. That's my main misgiving about something like that. But it's awfully strong looking as well. I can somewhat repair my structure. But yeah, black might play bishop f5 and blockade. So maybe I should lean towards a different square. Maybe just knight h4. Typically, you wouldn't want to put your knight there, but f4 is coming so fast. And black can't play knight g5? Or queen g5, rather. Yeah, let's go with this. And maybe some idea of playing knight f5. d6 is a potential outpost square. I'd be hitting g7, but yeah, I like this move since it's going to assist in this. And the f5 square will be a focus if I get to play f4. There is bishop a6 here, which will deflect my rook from the f file, but on the other hand, if black plays bishop a6, then their bishop can't contribute to stopping f4, f5. So I think I'll just play rook fe1. I could play f4. Oh, don't pre-move that, John. Had that pre-move for a second. I could play f4 against bishop a6 and sack the exchange, but it seems unnecessary to do that. Bishop a6, f4, bishop takes f1, rook takes f1. Pretty strong compensation, I think, with f5 coming with tempo, but I probably won't do that because it, again, doesn't seem necessary. Another nice point about having the knight on h4 is that if black plays h6, I have the option of going queen g6 check. The knight supports the queen check, prevents black from coordinating. Wow. g5. Okay, that's a very aggressive and reckless looking move. I think f4 against this. I mean, I could play knight f5, but f4 just looks so thematic. Because then on f4, if bishop a6, I even have the extra option of rook f2. Yeah, knight f5 looks good as well, but no, I'm not going to hesitate on this decision too much. f4, let's do it. So black looking to stabilize here. Now if f5, I get the two connectors, but black's going to go knight g7, I assume. Maybe looking for knight h5 type ideas. Although I do have knight g6 against that, maybe, although f5's a little bit loose. Okay, so yeah, h6 is a good defensive move, I think. What about knight g6 first? Knight g6, rook h7, then f5? Ooh, it'd almost be nice to have my queen out of the way so I could easily support things. Although that feels pretty forcing and strong. So let's see this. Knight g6, rook h7, f5. I think knight g7 is basically forced there. And, ooh, e6 looks like a nasty move as well in that position. Okay. Yeah, I think I got to go for this one. It's just almost too good to pass up. What about knight here? Take on f4? Ooh. No, I'm going to go for it. I think rook h7 is probably going to be played. I mean, maybe this move. If I had more time, I would stop and consider that move for longer, but that appears promising for me. Haven't worked out all the details yet. Takes, maybe just bishop takes, and then rook h7. I have various discoveries I can try. Knight e7 would be double check. I could even go pick up the c6 pawn at that point. There must be something there for white. I'm just going to try to be practical about my time management. Trust that there's going to be a good option there. But yeah, main calculation, rook h7, go f5. f5, put the knight back on g7. And I think this e6 move is a pretty nice one. Took me a while to notice that because f6 seems more natural. Okay, he's going to go back to f8. My opponent continuing to surprise me. So again, I'm looking at e6 or just trading and playing e6. Now I'm going to trade first and then play e6. I think that's going to be the way to do it. Block out this light square bishop entirely. There's even h4 as an option, but I think e6 first. Just put two connected pawns on the same diagonal as that bishop. Ensure that black can't blockade me, because if I were to play f6 instead and keep the pawns defended, it's tempting, I know, but black can stick that bishop on e6, and I may not be able to hurt black on the light squares. So I think e6 is a much more constructive move. Many ideas here. h4, queen e5, bishop d4, although that doesn't threaten anything here and here. That actually reminds me of a video I posted the other day where I was talking about a queen and a dark square bishop on that a1, h8 diagonal from a game that I played in 2016. Still up a pawn here. If bishop a6, I think probably rook f2. f6 may be also possible if I want to sacrifice something. Okay, so queen e7. Queens usually do not make good blockaders of passed pawns. So first move that came to mind was f6, but he takes, and he's guarding f7. I don't see a real good solution to this move for black. I mean, maybe queen here, but looks doubtful. I can play bishop f4 even against that. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this. Because now if rook g7, then f6 is going to be a crusher. Although, in fairness, he has queen c7 there. But then I have f7 check, disrupting the queen and the rook from guarding each other. So, all right, let's get the h-pawn involved to get Harry involved. Looking for h takes g5, h takes g5, bishop takes g5. Okay, so black takes. That looks desperate, but the pawns did have a tremendous cramping effect on the position. Okay, so now just h takes g5. Probably not a whole lot to debate here. My king looks very safe, so I'm just going to play that. They're only hitting my bishop once, and I'm defending it with my queen. Assuming black takes back, do I take g5? I could, although I get slightly pinned if I do. It might be better just to play something like this. Okay, so black's going to play h5, try to keep things closed. But what about g6, rook g7, bishop d4? Black can take on g6. Okay. Rook f6 looks very handy here. Rook f6 just looking to double, or maybe play g6 with better defense. Bishop d4, another strong-looking move. Kind of like bishop d4. Yeah, let's do that. Get the bishop on a sweeping diagonal. Now rook ae1 can come with tempo. Black has h4, but just a number of good options against that. I might even play queen to h3 in that case. Okay, c5, attacking the bishop. g6, also rook ae1. Prime candidate moves in this position. Rook f6, maybe another move. Yeah, so many good options. But let's play a simple looking one. Get all the pieces involved. That rook on a1 was the one piece that was not noticeably involved yet. If queen g4, I can trade queens if I want, or I can play something more aggressive, maybe queen d6 or queen e5, because queen takes d5 will be a threat. Okay, queen here. Seems like it may be time for g6 attacking the rook. g6. I think rook h6 is going to be the likely answer. Rook f7, something sharp like that. Could also just play bishop f6 here. I think I'm going to go g6. Onward with the pawn. Yeah, because I think on both options, rook h6 and rook e7, I can continue the attack. Rook h6, for instance, I can play bishop e3. Look to try to force that rook to h8, which would be an awful square for it. If h4, maybe queen e5 or queen g5. So black plays rook e7. Think about trading in rook e1 or trading in rook f7. Also, trade in rook f7, and there's no good checks for my opponent. So let's trade to begin with. Yeah, rook f7 and hit the queen. Queen e5 would be an easy option if I just want to force a queen trade purely, but I think I like this. Yeah, there's no checks down here. Just double checking to make sure. Double checking the checks. So I would suspect something like queen e4 or queen e6. One of those two moves, queen e6. Again, queen e5 if I really want to be no nonsense about it, but check. Starting to look at forced wins, because if the king goes over here, I can play rook e7. Yeah, and if rook g7, king f8, I have queen f4, and I feel like the curtain is drawing down. Yeah, it's got to be rook g7. Let's go for it. King f8, queen f4, king e8, queen f7 is working there. I could also play queen h6, although then they actually get a perpetual. So got to be on the lookout for those last-ditch resources. I could play queen f3 and queen takes h5. That looks like a decent idea. I'm going to play queen f3. King e8, and I know I only have 24 seconds left, so with no increment. So I should be speeding up a little bit. But yeah, queen e1, I have king h2. But I think due to this threat, this looks just totally busted for black. Yeah, basically one check, but no good checks after that. Okay, queen f5. I'll just take it. I'm threatening mate in 2 in a bunch of different ways. Next idea was queen h8, queen f8, but no need to allow that. Okay, and Captain Smasher resigns. Thanks to Captain Smasher for the game. All right, so very promising position out of the opening. Yeah, I think bishop b4 is asking for it for black. D takes e5, knight takes e4, and yes, black has the pin, but in many e4, e5 openings, you got to watch out for bishop takes f7 motifs. And I think after this is played, black should play king takes f7, queen f3, knight f6, although that also looked good for white. I was thinking about something like knight ge2. But that seemed like a much better option. I will be curious after king e7 what the best way for me to play the attack was, because queen g4 may not be the best move. Spent a minute and a half on that move. It's a little bit long. Yeah, 52 seconds on bishop takes f7. Otherwise, time management-wise, it wasn't too bad. A little bit of time on knight h4. Yeah, even though I was in full control over the position, I would like to be able to win these games with a bit more time on my clock. But you guys know me. I have a tendency to over-explain. But that's why 10 minutes is a good challenge for me while I'm recording and talking about my thoughts as I'm playing. But I think I'm pretty happy about the quality of the moves. Like I said, queen h4 was just the one move I wasn't so sure about. I just think that position after king e7 has got to be close to losing for black. I don't think black can play this way and get away with it. So I think there was some instructive play on the various color complexes, light and dark squares. So yeah, in particular, I think that's an important move to know, e6, because I bet many of you would play, or at least look at, strongly consider f6, but the thing about f6 is black gets to blockade on the light squares. You know, I've learned this lesson the hard way myself, where, yeah, you have these nice pawns, but they're not going anywhere. So if you instead use the pawns offensively and block your opponent's bishop, then you have greater chances to capitalize on your advantage. You know, here, as I was saying, h4 was coming. The bishop was an ineffective piece, so much so that black sacrificed it a few moves later. So I think that's a good takeaway for you guys. If you haven't already picked this up from watching my videos, if you're playing against your opponent's lone bishop, often you should try to arrange your pawns on the same color as that bishop. There are exceptions, of course. You know, if you're defending in an endgame against that lone bishop and that bishop's a serious problem, you may have to put the pawns on the opposite color in order to keep them safe. But especially if you're playing offensively, it's usually better to do it this way. So let's click over to the analysis board. Yeah, so the Vienna game, knight c3, it's an interesting line. You know, oftentimes white can try to play bishop c4, d3, and f4, looking for sort of a delayed king's gambit when the pawn is better protected. You know, so say in the event of something like this, play f4, go knight f3, get some pressure against the center, possibility of playing f5 later, pawn storm. So I think that's quite interesting. c6, maybe I should play knight f3 here. That may be strictly the best move. Let's take a look at the Explorer and see. Yeah, knight f3 is played more often here than bishop c4. d4 also played a lot. Yeah, it only occurred to me to play knight f3 after I had played bishop c4, and this could transpose into some sort of Philidor defense. Maybe even a hand-ham Philidor if black plays knight d7 or reinforces the pawn. That being said, though, I think bishop c4, as I played, is fine. So bishop c4, knight f6. Yeah, and I went ahead and played d4, and it looks like that's the top move, 19 games. White has a healthy score with that move. So it looks pretty good. Yeah, and now, interestingly, bishop b4 is also the most popular reply. I wonder what the computer thinks about this. Let's fire up Stockfish and see. As I was saying, I like d4 here. Usually you would play d4 with the knight already being on f3, so you could have the option of taking with the knight, but because black has played c6 and blocked their knight from being able to develop there so smoothly, this is nice. And black really doesn't want to play c5. Like, this is not a good structure because the d5 and d6 squares become pretty weak. You can see the eval just jumps up significantly in white's favor. Even if white plays something calm like queen d3, black's going to have big problems with those squares. For instance, long term, white may look to drop a knight in there somewhere, maybe bishop g5, castles, drop a knight into d5 in the future. So, all right, so black played bishop b4. Another tactical problem, so say black plays d6. This runs into a double capture on e5, and then this typical idea, bishop takes f7, trying to drag the black king away from guarding the queen. So it's also strong for white. So bishop b4, d takes e5. That's got to be the critical move. Yeah, knight takes e4. And we're still following several games here. What, 8 games to reach this position? In 2 of them, white played the move I did, bishop takes f7. The other 3 others, queen d4 was played. That's the move that Stockfish likes best as well. Okay, so I'll be very curious about that. Yeah, queen f3, as I was considering in the game, played in 1 game, but I think d5 is a good response for black. d5, another very normal move that black looks to get in many e4, e5 positions, especially with a white bishop on c4, try to block that bishop. Blocks the threat on f7, secures the knight, and if en passant, black can take, attack, and defend. Black should be fine here. The engine says black can even castle here, which is a nice move too, because queen takes e4, rook e8. So yeah, I didn't like queen f3, so what about this bishop takes f7 move? And definitely king takes f7 should be played. So king takes f7, queen f3, we're following 2 games. Yep, knight f6. And I was thinking about knight e2 here. I think it's better to keep this in reserve for a moment. But yeah, interestingly, the computer says black's a little bit better here. Despite the seemingly misplaced king on f7, black might be able to castle by hand. Let's say even in the event of rook e8 or something. Take, and that king is ready to slip back here. Yeah, I can see why this is fine for black, especially if I had to trade queens or something. Queen h5, I guess, makes sense, because if king g8, I can pick up the rook on e8, but even this is fine for black. Okay, so in that case, yeah, I can see why queen d4 is preferable. Attack and defend. Multi-purpose moves, right? I feel like I say that a lot. Attack and defend. Yeah, d5 as well here. Takes and castles. Knight e2. Computer claims a small edge for white, but this doesn't look like much. I mean, this d6 pawn is hanging in the future. Although if black takes it here, I guess I have check and then go play queen takes b4. Okay, I think this is a line for further exploration. If bishop takes f7, queen f3, knight f6 is holding up for black, which it appears to be, then yes, I could totally see why queen d4 makes sense. Or knight e2 even. Be another move to look at. Just getting on with development. That said, though, as I mentioned in the brief post-game, I think this move is losing or close to losing for black. King e7. Okay, computer likes queen f3 and also bishop b3 here. It's already giving plus 2.5 to 3 for white. Yeah, bishop b3 just dropping back. That's a recognition of the fact that black doesn't really want to get involved with multiple captures on c3 with that bishop g5 threat lurking. What if knight takes c3? Yeah, bishop g5 check. And if king e8, queen h5 check, g6. And bishop f7. That's a nice move. And on king takes, we're going to bring our queen to safety and then be able to take the black queen on d8. That does look nice. Okay, so the calm bishop b3 just solve any sort of issue with king takes f7 looks good. Yeah, definitely thought about queen f3 as well. I wonder what it thinks about this. Okay, this is right up there too. This is also hanging around over +2 for white. It just looked like a good idea to attack the knight, even the bishop behind it. So if knight takes c3, I have queen takes b4. Also hits g7. And I think black found one of the better ways to play. Take, king takes, position stabilizes, but yeah, up a pawn. Very good position for white. Again, just don't blunder something like this and allow rook e8. Be very aware of alignment issues with your king and your queen on the e-file if you haven't castled yet in an e4, e5 opening. So I went queen f4. Just going to take a very brief look here because I felt pretty good about this phase of the game, but still having a look with the engine. Yeah, b6, I went knight h4. Computer also says a4, c4, rook f d1. All moves kind of on the queen side of the board. I was pretty focused on trying to use my 4 versus 2, and especially getting the f-pawn involved. Yeah, c4, I don't think there's a chance I would play c4 here. I don't even really see what the purpose of c4 is. So if black takes it, play rook d1 or something with tempo. For some reason, that jumps the eval significantly for white. That looks like a stock fishy move right there. I'm pretty satisfied with knight h4. Just very tough for black once these pawns start rolling. I'm curious, so if black plays bishop a6 here. Yeah, f4 is the top move of the computer. I kind of had a feeling something like that may be good. f4, bishop takes f1, rook takes f1, because white's compensation just looks massive here. But I probably wouldn't have gone for that. I probably would have just played rook fe1, f4 after that. Although it's a little annoying that black's controlling f1. But even here, yeah, this is plus 4.5 in a position where white's only up 1 pawn. I mean, big advantage, not only with the extra pawn, but more so the position. A promising attacking position with black's king not being secure, blocking their rook from getting into the game too. Yeah, and I think g5 kind of accelerated black's defeat. Here, I went knight g6. Yep, this looks good. Yeah, g takes f4 might be black's best chance here, paradoxically. Although it looks crazy to play this move. Bishop takes f4, rook h7, and I was looking at various discoveries. Yeah, knight e7, king h8. Didn't see a win exactly here. I saw I could maybe pivot around and pick this up. Computer just wants to back this off. Bishop e3, keep all the threats. Yeah, black shouldn't be able to hold this. If rook g7, bishop takes h6. Okay, so f5. Also, the computer's looking at this move. Yeah, I was just kind of hesitant to break up those pawns, although it might be good for tactical reasons involving rook f8. Let's see, so if takes, pawn takes. Okay, rook f6, kind of working into the position. Bishop takes g5. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, getting ready for a doubling as well. That does look crushing. I like f5 though. Seems very natural here. Okay, queen e8. That's a creative defense by the engine. Trying to counterattack my knight on g6. So if I take here, black takes here. Try to muddy the waters a little bit, although rook f6 looking very strong even there. Yeah, and here I just swapped and played e6. Yep, blocking that bishop. So e6 is plus nearly 7 here, according to the engine. Let's see if I had played f6, that move I was dissuading you guys from. Still a very big advantage, but it almost cuts that advantage in half. It's down to plus 3.25 or so. Black can start blockading on those light squares. Queen f7 is given. So I want to be playing against black's light square bishop, compensating for the fact that I don't have a light square bishop, and also opening opportunities for my dark square bishop. It's not going to be encumbered by my pawns, right? So I was mentioning ideas like this, which came in handy later. Yeah, h4, and he sacked the bishop. Very tough, though. I'm looking to win this pawn, and if rook g7, there's f6, as I was saying. Nice line. If f6, queen here, looking for a trade, I can throw an f7 check and break the coordination between the queen and the rook. Rook takes f7, g takes f7. So instead, bishop takes e6. Yeah, the game was decided here, just kind of a matter of winning the game. I think I let my time get down a little too low, but I don't think I was ever in serious danger of failing to convert. Yeah, this all happens pretty much by force. Queen takes h5. So the last little detail was, if I go queen f4, king e8, queen h6, looks like it's setting up something similar, but the problem is black has a perpetual that you should know about. Queen e1, king h2, queen h4. I can't go here or here, so black saves the game by playing this way. So the way I did it in the game, queen f3, go take the pawn. I'm covering the h4 square. Yeah, it looks like it's forced checkmate from here. So black resigned. Okay, so the Vienna game, not the most popular option after e4, e5, but I know there's some of you guys out there who play this. Don't recall if I played this before in a video. This might be a first. I'll have to go back and look at my video library. But if you like getting your f-pawn involved, but you don't want to go full-on King's Gambit, because the King's Gambit is probably an unsound opening, then the Vienna may be an option for you. And I think there were some important, good takeaways from this game. So thanks again to Captain Smasher for the game. And thanks to you guys for watching, as always. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I will be back again soon with another video. Bye, guys.